Shannon Stillwell Jackson is leading a class action lawsuit against Fulton County Sheriff and members of his staff, focusing on inhumane conditions and violating constitutional rights. The hammer is finally coming down on the sheriff of Fulton County. Bro needs to be put in jail. Straight up. You'll see why. And towards the end of this video, you're going to see details of Shannon being stabbed twice. It's pretty intense. Hit subscribe. Here we go, boys. All right, United States District Court, Northern District of Georgia, Atlanta Division, Hambrick. I don't know how to pronounce the first name. My apologies. Shannon Jackson versus Fulton County Sheriff Patrick Labatt and Fulton County Chief Jailer John Jackson. Class action complaint. He's literally still there in the jail, and he's filing a class action lawsuit. Shannon's got some balls. Plaintiffs respectfully file this complaint for declaratory relief, injunctive relief, and damages on behalf of themselves and other people in the same situation who have suffered or will suffer injuries because of the defendant's deliberate indifference to known excessive risks to the health and safety of detainees at Fulton County Jail, 901 Ray Street, which violate the detainees' rights under the 8th and 14th Amendments of the United States Constitution. Some serious shit. So I'd imagine it's going to be a lot about the DOJ investigation. Serious harm by cruel and unusual conditions. Action for damages to people who have been in or in the future will be detained in Fulton County Jail and suffer damages that arise from the defendant's deliberate indifference to be known excessive risk to the health and safety of detainees. Fulton County Jail detainees are at constant risk of danger, serious personal injury, and death due to Fulton County Jail's crumbling infrastructure, which inmates use to craft makeshift knives called shanks for use as weapons. Defendant's failure to perform maintenance to remedy or replace non-working or dysfunctional jail cell doors that can be manipulated by inmates to enter or exit jail cells without authorization. What type of jail has hundreds of doors that are broken at a time? And it's known among the inmates that you can pop open doors. What type of jail? How is that possible? Defendant's failure to use correctional practices such as classification, housing plans, assessment of the likelihood of victimization, and considerations of gang affiliations to manage the incarcerated population and reduce the risk of violence. You're like putting 17-year-old boys with the most violent people on purpose. It's also just overpopulated in general. It's like double or triple the population it should be at. Defendant's inadequate parasite and pest control measures, inadequate chemical control measures, the failure to remedy an unclean, unhygienic jail living conditions, and insufficient and neutrally inadequate food. Defendant's failure to staff and train Fulton County Jail detention officers and staff to protect detainees from attacks. Gross deficiencies in Fulton County's jail provision of medical and mental health care. Exposed detainees to an increased risk of injury, serious illness, pain, and suffering. Mental health decline and death. Why is there roommates in the mental health side of the jail? The world may never know. Talking about shanks being used by detainees popping open cell doors to exit their cells without authorization and to enter rival cells to perform attacks. Detention officers' use of excessive force. By Fulton County Jail's failure to provide medical treatment for illness and injuries. Under the 8th and 14th Amendments, a jail must protect detainees from known risks of serious injury and death. Farmer vs. Brennan, 1994 case. In July 23, United States Department of Justice opened a civil rights investigation. So this is the big DOJ investigation. Talking about the big report that I read already about how terrible it was in there. From its investigation, the Department of Justice found reasonable cause to believe that Fulton County and the Fulton County Sheriff's Office violate the constitutional and statutory rights of people incarcerated in Fulton County Jail. DOJ determined Fulton County Jail living conditions do not meet basic constitutional standards. Jail deputies and detention officers use force against incarcerated people without adequate justification. Apparently, these officers just be tasing anybody and everybody. Straight up people that are unprovoked, like it shouldn't have happened. One guy got tased like 6 times and started having seizures. They were tasing a guy that's known to have seizures. How fucking brain dead. Restrictive housing conditions in jail pose a substantial risk of harm, including acute mental illness and self-injury. Restrictive housing practices are discriminatory and unlawful. Jail's grievance system does not offer incarcerated people an adequate way to report and avoid danger. Jail staff improperly avoid investigating and substantially responding to detainees' grievances. Missing opportunities to address unsafe conditions. Don't even get me started. If someone gets sexually assaulted in the jail, they have to pay to report it. Yes, you heard me correctly. They have to pay to report it. In the DOJ investigation, it was like only 2 reports in like a year or something, which is laughable. Leadership of Fulton County and the Sheriff's Office are aware of the violence in the jail and have publicly decried it, but have failed to take adequate action to address the crisis and homicides and stabbings and other violent acts. 60% of you aren't subscribed. Come on, hit the subscribe bell. Plaintiffs expect to show the defense failure to implement and execute policies or procedures to limit or eliminate handcrafted shanks. All the fucking holes in the walls and light fixtures. Failure to implement and execute policies or procedures to remedy non-working dysfunctional cell lock doors. Violates 8th and 14th Amendment. Hambrick is a 44-year-old male. Shannon Jackson, aka Shannon Stillwell, was born in 1992. Citing Jacoby vs. Baldwin. Pretrial prison conditions may not be imposed to punish a pretrial detainee. Remember, this is a jail. These people aren't even found guilty of their crime that they're in there for yet. It's absolutely insane. Defendant Patrick Labatt is sued in his official capacity as sheriff of Fulton County, position he held since January 1st, 2021. As sheriff, he is required by Georgia law to operate the Fulton County jail system to maintain the custody of people held in jails and to ensure safety and sanitary conditions. Well, this guy's fucking failed. What the fuck? Literally failed at his job that is required by Georgia law. Put him in jail. Why isn't this guy in jail yet? Put the sheriff in jail. Simple as that. He fucked up his one job. Case closed. Well, not actually, it's not closed, but put this fucker in jail. Put him in Rice Street. Right? Isn't that a good fix? John Jackson assumed his official capacity of Chief Jailer, Fulton County Sheriff's Office. Chief Jailer shall appoint a fire safety and sanitation supervisor and fire safety and sanitation officer, who are collectively responsible for coordinating, conducting, and documenting fire safety and sanitation inspections by independent agencies. Put this motherfucker in jail too. Allegations of fact. Defendant Labaz publicly admitted that he lacks the resources to carry out his legally mandated responsibility to protect the constitutional rights of pretrial detainees at Fulton County Jail. Don't have the resources, but we all know if he really cared about these people, he could get it done. He could be raising hell trying to get the funding and the jail staff and everything handled. He clearly puts no effort in. Labat has explained the Fulton County Board of Commissioners and to the general public on multiple occasions why there are so many homemade knives and shanks at Fulton County Jail. Detainees at the jail fashion metallic weapons from the crumbling physical infrastructure of the jail. He gave the Fulton County Board of Commissioners a tour of the jail. The tour allowed the commissioners to observe the firsthand deteriorating infrastructure, which infrastructure is still being used to make knives in there to stab people. The building that they're in is falling apart and they're able to make knives out of it. Think about how fucking ridiculous that is. There's probably a few people that haven't watched any videos of past on this. They had like 3,000 weapons in 2023 found in this jail. I think it might have even been more. In other jails, it's like less than 500. 3,000 to 500. April 20th, 2022, a sweep at Fulton County Jail resulted in the discovery of nearly 100 knives or shanks. One day, they discovered 100 knives and shanks. Defendant Labat had a jail guard roll a wheelbarrow full of shanks confiscated from Fulton County Jail into the Atlantic City Council. Why would he do that? It's his fault. You're not fucking handling your jail correctly. I mean, it's partly his fault. Like, obviously, it's the inmate's fault too, but at the same time, your fucking building's falling apart, motherfucker. Get the funding. Mid-July 24, Defendant Labat stated that since June 1st, there had been 10 stabbings and 75 knife shanks have been confiscated. He's always decried the lack of Fulton County allocated funds for urgent jail priorities such as inmate security, upkeep of deteriorating jail facilities. Defendant Labat advised members of the site visiting the number of uniformed staff vacancies in the jail was at a critical staffing shortage level. A housing floor at the jail should ideally have 2 officers in the housing control room as well as 3 officers who constantly move through the 6 housing zones, providing safety and security tours, making inspections, and managing the people detained. According to Labat, in practice there's typically only 1 officer in the housing control room and at most 1 officer moving through the housing zones with nearly 200 people. Yeah, 1 person to monitor 200 people physically is insane. I don't know how there isn't more prison uprising, dude. Even though this isn't even a fucking prison. How is there not more riots? That's not enough people. 87% of the jail population in Fulton County are black, and the vast majority have not been convicted. They are awaiting bail hearings, competency evaluations, and restoration services, or are detained because of their inability to post bail. Notice how the days are shorter, but your to-do lists aren't? Power through your day with Factor's no prep and no mess meals. From breakfast to dinner, Factor has everything you could ask for to keep you fueled and feeling your best. And if you're someone that likes to switch things up, Factor has 35 different meals every single week, and over 60 additional convenience items like keto cookies, pressed juices, and smoothies. Tons of options you can add to your box and make it just how you want, boys. You can choose between 6 menu preferences that helps you manage your calories or protein intake or just eating well balanced in general. Factor's meals are chef prepared and dietitian approved, and we all know diet is king for how you feel, so eating real food will definitely help you feel better. Your mind will be more clear. In my opinion, it's 100% worth the investment. And of course, it's cheaper than takeout and dining in. And I must say that truffle butter filet mignon, chef's kiss, boys. That's my recommendation for you. Absolutely mouth-watering. Head to factormeals.com/50cuff and use code 50cuff to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code 50cuff at factormeals.com/50cuff to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping while your subscription is active. Go get you some healthy meals, boys. Trust me, it's worth it. Back to the video, guys. Thank you. DOJ's report: 3 months after detainee's arrest, the detainee died in a filthy cell mental health unit. Medical examiner reported that his malnourished body was infested with enormous presence of body lice and concluded that he was neglected to death. So I think this same person's family that died also is part of this lawsuit separately. I could be tripping, it could be someone else. NAP Care report found that every person in a mental health housing unit, meaning about 100 people, had lice, scabies, or both. An infection control report documented 204 ectoparasite cases in the jail. And there was also outbreaks in the preceding months, a bunch of ectoparasite cases. Both medical and custodial leaders were aware of this infestation and probably did fucking nothing. NAP Care announced its plan to terminate its contract with the jail because it's unsafe working conditions. The dispute was resolved and they remain the current healthcare provider. Jail officer noticed a door that was open. Detainee popped the door open by burning a hole in the cell door and then popped the cell door open. Upon searching the cell, detention officers discovered various metal sharp objects on top bunk and inside the light fixture and a piece of concrete stuffed inside a sock. These motherfuckers fucking stuffing socks with concrete, dude. One of the residents claimed ownership of the shanks, claiming it was his for protection. Other shanks went unclaimed. 2 of the shanks had burn marks on them. So they're just going through a bunch of events like that, with shanks being found and weapons being found. Some guys weren't happy about a homosexual man being in their zone. The guy ran out of the zone because he was scared while the guard was leaving, saying he was not fucking staying in there. Detention officer then used their taser on him. Real productive. Within weeks of open investigation, Department of Justice in July 23, 6 more black men died in the jail. 1 person was found unresponsive in a cell after his cellmate strangled him. Within 24 hours, days later, 5 units in the jail saw violent assault. At least 7 people were stabbed. Dino Walker was murdered by rival detainees wielding shanks. There was not a single officer moving through the 6 housing zones on his floor. Shamar McLeroy was murdered by Fulton County Jail cellmate Jeremiah Collier, who was a known murderer with mental health issues. Anthony Jenkins was murdered by cellmate Davion Blake, wait, this might be the person whose family is also in this lawsuit actually, was stabbed to death by rival inmates wielding shanks. Davion Blake was on suicide watch, had been receiving medication for schizophrenia. Defendant Patrick Labat, deliberate indifference. Class plaintiffs are entitled to an award of damages for injuries, pain, and suffering of mind, body, and death. Hambrick, which is the other guy with Shannon that's in this lawsuit specifically, suffered severe wounds and sores on his torso and lower body as a result of unsanitary conditions. Hambrick was found lying on the floor face first on the cell on the 4th floor of the North Tower. Responders were unable to assess plaintiff Hambrick's neurological condition. Nonverbal, had rashes to his back and torso, had negative physical findings for seizures, but responders were unable to fully examine him. He complained of mood instability and received medications to treat manic episodes, schizophrenia, and bipolar disorder. Peachtree Medical Center noted the reason for Hambrick's visit was being in prison from January to June, 20 stab wounds, bug bites, possible spider bite on back of leg, multiple skin ulcerations on the trunk and extremities of various size. There's photographs of it. Oh, here we go, about Shannon being stabbed. On July 4th, 22, plaintiff Jackson suffered serious injuries in an arranged shanking attack. Wait, this isn't even when the trial was going on. This is before that. An attempted murder in zone 500 on the 5th floor of the South Tower at Fulton County Jail. Before the attack, Jackson was relocated from zone 100 on the 5th floor of the South Tower to zone 500 on the 5th floor of the South Tower. Detainee Jalon Stanley held a grudge against plaintiff Jackson and orchestrated an attack. Stanley was able to perform the attack by interfering with the security operations of cell number 517. He was taken to Grady Hospital for injuries. If he had been moved to a different floor instead of a different zone on the same floor, then detainee Jalon Stanley would have not had an opportunity to perform an attack. Yeah, it wasn't very smart moving him around just a different zone for people to see probably. And they're like, oh, that's him. He's around us now. Here's about the stabbing when the trial just started a year ago. Literally almost a year ago to the day. Shannon Jackson suffered serious injuries, orchestrated shanking attack and attempted murder in cell 412 on the 6th floor of the North Tower. Detention officer Shawan Nash assigned to the 6th floor of the North Tower. Shawan Nash saw suspicious activity in zone, so attempted to investigate, at which point detainee Lester Walker tried to prevent detention officer Nash from investigating, saying the detainees were arguing about the game that was on. Nash investigated further, causing detainees to scatter. Then officer Nash discovered plaintiff Jackson covered in blood and requesting medical attention. So someone was literally watching out for guards and was trying to say, no, they're just arguing about a game. Willie Brown had entered plaintiff Jackson's cell and used a shank to cause serious personal injuries to plaintiff Jackson. Jackson was taken to Grady Hospital for injuries. Willie Brown suffered no injuries. There was no tower officer assigned to the 6th floor of the North Tower at the time of the attack. If there had been a tower officer on the 6th floor of the North Tower, that tower officer could have deterred the attack on Jackson. Holy shit. So we never really know the details exactly of what happened, but definitely seems negligent on the jail side for both situations on why Shannon Stowell was stabbed in jail. Yak Gotti's got to jump in on this too, right? He's been stabbed in the fucking head. This was not done by accident or through some justifiable negligence. Such conduct was done with conscious disregard of plaintiffs' rights under the 8th and 14th Amendments to the Constitution. Accordingly, plaintiffs request punitive damages against defendants for their harms caused to plaintiffs. And it's got all the calls of action in count 1, 8th Amendment, 14th Amendment violations. Fucked up doors. Count 1 was shanks. Count 3 is the housing plans for how they organize everyone being housed, clearly. Filthy, parasite, vermin infested, unsanitary conditions. Detention officers being goddamn maniacs, tasing anyone and everyone. Healthcare system being flawed in the jail, including the mental health care. Inadequate staffing and supervision to keep detainees safe. And that's pretty much it. Holy shit. And this is filed federally, so a federal judge will have to look at this, boys. Don't know where it goes from here, though. I would imagine more people are going to join in on this. A lot more people are going to join in this because it's a class action lawsuit, right? The jail's a hellhole. We all know that. And everyone needs to be fired and the sheriff needs to be put in jail. Straight up. Comment down below what you guys think. Hit subscribe. Love you guys. Peace out.